Continuing on this conversation about Katniss and feelings and her inability to really express her own feelings, but also really to read anybody else's feelings, I feel like that is illustrated perfectly in the next little bit. So after the reaping has happened, she has met with her family and all of the people, and it's after that. And it's when her and Peeta come back together, and she notices that while she tried really, really hard not to be crying so that she wouldn't have puffy eyes, anything like that for the reporters, Peeta has not tried at all to hide the fact that he's been crying and been upset. She's actually proud of herself that she looks like a little bit bored in the cameras from what she can see. But when she sees that Peeta has been crying, she says, I immediately wonder if this will be his strategy in the games. And then a character is mentioned that I did not realize was mentioned this early, which is Joanna Mason. And it's not in a very flattering light. She thinks maybe Peeta is trying to do the same thing that Joanna Mason did in her games. She says, quote, she seemed like such a sniveling, cowardly fool that no one bothered about her until there was only a handful of contestants left. It turned out she could kill viciously. Pretty clever the way she played it. But then she goes on to say that Peeta probably couldn't use this strategy because he's just a big, strong boy already. And people probably won't underestimate his strength the way that they did with Joanna. And I think it's interesting how this shows us in Katniss's mind, there is only like strength and weakness, and also perception of strength and weakness, like usually lines up with how that person actually is. And I think this gets thrown on its head quite a bit throughout this entire book. Like later we have Thresh, who is like said to be one of the most physically imposing, who doesn't do a lot of killing, if I'm remembering correctly, and also like saves her because of everything that happens with Rue. Or not saves her, but doesn't kill her in a moment that he could. We also have Cato at the very end, who is like maybe the epitome of big strong man, like begging for his life to end so he can be put out of his misery. So these are all kind of, this moment at the beginning here is like a foreshadowing moment for Katniss realizing that looks don't really matter. Or like you can't judge a book by its cover. Crying and showing emotions does not mean that you're going to be physically weak or not a physical challenge. And likewise, seeming so calm, cool, and collected doesn't necessarily mean that you're not emotional or anything underneath. Everybody got choices.